Well, franchising started with a person by the name of Isaac Singer. And Isaac invented the Singer sewing machine. And like a lot of inventors, he ran out of money. So he had developed the product, but he had no money now to market and distribute it. So he came up with this idea that he would receive money from the people who would actually establish the Singer sewing machine centres. So in return for that, he would establish them with the centre, but also provide training, because basically it was a new product and people had to be trained in using it. And they're the two basic things that you get within franchising today: extensive training, and you have a fee paid in relation to the establishment of the business within a particular area.
Well, I thought McDonald's was the first franchise.
Well, McDonald's is very significant within franchising because McDonald's made a fundamental change within it. Up until then, it was a much looser system than it is today. But essentially what McDonald's did is they introduced what we call trade dress. And what that is that every single aspect of the business is determined by the franchise agreement. The way people dress, the consistency of the product, the layout of a particular store, every single aspect of it. So McDonald's were very significant in relation to that. But also what they did was they introduced a very intensive and extensive training program. And yes, McDonald's, many people associate with the start of franchising, and they're very significant, and we often call it the second phase of franchising.
Sean, how do I find a franchise?
Well, there's no difficulty finding franchises because there are a lot of them. I mean, there are 3,500 different systems in the US. There's another 3,000 plus systems in Europe. So, there's a great variety there. In relation to finding them, one of the places you can look is in the national press. You're going to get advertisements in the Wall Street Journal. Many of the papers will do features on franchising. The other thing is franchise exhibitions that are held in many cities throughout the country. Mm-hmm. You can go along and you can meet with franchises. But then one of the areas that today many people are looking at is the website, and a website like FranchiseDirect. And this provides the individual at home to browse through different franchises. Within our system alone, we have over 900 different franchises broken down by category. So you should be able to find a franchise within it that suits you. And there's plenty of choice. Just in terms of looking and researching, the first thing I'd say to you is try and structure your research. Don't just the first one you see, go for it. Try and structure it. And the first step would be, what are the areas that I like? What do I like to do? Would I like to be in a coffee shop or an ice cream? Or would I like a cleaning franchise or whatever different? So you pick your area of interest. And the way you can do that on the site is you go into the different categories and you say, well, this particular area I'm attracted to. And once you've done that, then you can select a few within that. Now, the next step is you've got to see, well, does it fit my pocket? Because it could cost 5 million, it could cost $1 million or whatever. So after you've looked at your area of interest, then you look at the finances that you have to actually start the business. And in terms of funding, it is important that you balance your funding right. It is pointless trying to go through, a multi-million franchise and you haven't got the funding there for it. So in that regard, and in many cases, the franchisors are going to want a minimum level of investment. Mm-hmm. So that would be the next thing that you would do. You would look at your area of interest, then you would look at the finance that you need, and the third or most important thing is you've got to look at your local area. I mean, is there a demand for this service? You're interested by this particular thing, but I mean, is there a demand in your neighbourhood, in the town or city that you are in relation to this? Because it must be viable. And you must always remember that it is your business. So you have to actually make sure that there is a market for it within your local area.
How would you go about selecting a good franchise?
Well, in relation to any franchise, the first thing is it must be a tried and tested business. That is one of the things that you're actually buying in relation to the business, that they've made mistakes, they've developed the business, and that is the first thing, that it is tried and tested. It must be a profitable business, so that you are going into partnership with somebody that is a profitable, well-organized, well-managed business. The other thing you're going to look at is, is the product or service in some way different from the others that are there, that there's some aspect of differentiation. And many of the larger franchises, the brands will already be known. So in this situation, you're looking at the strength of the brand, and that's very important in terms of opening. And it often can mean that a franchise will open, and within its first week, it's already doing very good business. They're looking for management skills, where there's a large investment involved in it, and the number of employees are quite large. But that's quite different from somebody that's working from home, where you've got a home-based franchise. It's a simpler business. You're going to be going out doing the work yourself. So it's going to vary between if it's an investment, as some could be, of a few $1 million, or it's some much smaller scale. So what they're going to be looking for, in many cases, are the skills to develop the business. It's not a job. You're actually running your own business. You will need professional advice. It is a legal agreement, and you're entering into a legal agreement with somebody for maybe a 5, 10, 15-year duration. And yes, we would suggest that you get professional advice, you get a lawyer to look at it, and you look at it in a serious way, because you're entering into a legal agreement. In relation to franchising, it's a license agreement between the franchisor, the person who has developed it, and the franchisee. And because of that will actually determine a lot of the aspects in relation to the business. The first thing you're going to look at is the duration of it. What is it? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Because if you're making a $500,000 investment, you've got to have a term in it that will give you time to get a return on it. So the first thing would be its duration. And then the fact, is it renewable? Can you renew this? In many cases, it's a 5-year, but then you can renew it. So what are the terms and conditions of the renewal? And this is something you're going to need a lawyer to advise you on. Mm-hmm. The other important thing within the agreement would be the franchise fees, because there are a significant number of fees involved in it. And the first fee is what we call the license fee. It's the initial fee. It can be $15,000, $20,000. And that is about getting the actual business started. We call it the initial fee. But then there are two what we call ongoing fees, or it's called the management service fee or royalty. It could vary between 5%, 10% of the turnover. And that's usually paid monthly, could be weekly, but on a regular basis to the franchisor. And what you're doing is you're paying for the ongoing support, for the rights to use the business, and that's a feature of franchising.
Sean, what is our advertising levy?
Well, this is one of the aspects of franchising that actually can help to build the brand. What happens is that each individual franchisee contributes to a pool, and this advertising pool is used to promote the brand. So you can see how the brand is actually built. You've maybe 500 franchisees, 1,000 franchisees contributing into this fund that's getting larger, and therefore they can, advertise on television, radio, newspaper. So it's a significant part of franchising, and it does mean that, there's a structured fund there for advertising and promoting the business.
Sean, do all franchises have fees?
Well, most do, but there are some that actually work in a different system, and we would call it an exclusive purchase agreement. In many cases, this could be a manufacturer who actually makes product and who sells it through the franchisees. So they have an exclusive purchase agreement, so that, let's say I'm a manufacturer of clothing and have very good quality clothes, and I want to sell it, through small franchisees, boutique stores. Then the agreement can be, Benetton would be a good example of where their product range is actually sold through the franchisees. They're not paying a royalty, but they're actually they have an exclusive purchase. They have to buy that particular product. Once we've decided in the areas that we're interested by, many franchises organise what we call discovery days. And that's a day where you can go along, visit the franchise, visit the people involved, get a good... And you spend a day there discovering what it's about. And that's a very good way to actually find out more about it. And one of the things then you look for is, who are the franchisees that I can visit, and take time out to visit other franchisees. And this is one of the advantages of franchising. If you want to start a business, you can actually visit other people that are running this business, go through the detail of it, go through their plans with them, what it was like for them in the first few months and how they got the business going. So that's a great advantage in terms of putting your own plans together.
To actually see how it's run.
Yeah, to see how it's run, to interview them, get your sets of questions that you want to ask them, get yourself organised, and take time out. It's amazing that people are investing maybe $500,000 and they're not prepared to spend a few days investigating the franchise in detail, and they tend to rush into it. So I would take your time. I'd go visit franchisees and find out as much as you can. And you may have already had a liking for that franchise, but then come away and say, yeah, this is for me. Having talked to these people and how they're doing, I definitely want to do that. Or you may come away and say, well, I want to look at something else or whatever.